From executive producer Oliver Stone, meet Vanessa Lutz.
The cat drinks milk. I love you so much, Chopper.
I love you too, baby.
Her dad just doesn't get it.
Larry, get your goddamn hands off my anatomy.
Her mom is clueless.
You don't know nothing about nothing. You don't know a goddamn thing about nothing.
And her life is no fairy tale.
You having some kind of trouble?
This is a story of A, murder.
You the guy that's been killing all them girls on the freeway, Bob? You gonna do sex to me now?
B, revenge.
You accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior.
I want that little monster to pay for this.
Right now, we're the best friends you've got.
I'm so sure.
C, betrayal.
You don't believe we're your friends?
I believe you're out to ruin me.
D, survival.
Back in the hole, I decided all I need to live was my will.
E, all of the above.
I had this problem with anger. I did nothing wrong!
We need to put an end to the system that lets dangerous, violent thugs be prosecuted as juveniles.
Holy shit! Look who got beat with the ugly stick!
Kiefer Sutherland, Reese Witherspoon, Brooke Shields, Amanda Plummer. Freeway.
Why are you doing this?
I'm pissed off and the whole world owes me. Drinks.
You've got it. That's it, exactly.
Drinks. She's 15 years old and she's from Texas originally. And her and her mama moved to California. I'll go wherever you want to go. Come on, mister, sir. Her mom is a whore and her daddy molests her, and her, not a real daddy, but. Larry, get your goddamn hands off my anatomy. Her parents get arrested, so she has to make her way up to her grandma's house. But she ends up running into a serial murderer instead.
You having some kind of trouble?
Yeah, the fucking cocksucker won't even fucking turn over. Kiefer's playing Big Bad Wolf, and Vanessa's Little Red Riding Hood, and just going to see her grandma, and it's all this sort of traditional stuff in just sort of a modern way. You the guy that's been killing all them girls on the freeway, Bob? Why are you killing all them girls, Bob?
Because I've absolutely reached my fucking limit with people like you, Vanessa.
What kind of people am I supposed
The
to be?
alcoholics, the drug addicts, the fathers who fuck their daughters.
What makes him so terrifying is that what he thinks he's doing is right. It's the kind of humanity of a man who's gone crazy.
Now get your fucking pants down, you dirty, illiterate fucking slut!
Vanessa's fine until you rub her the wrong way. If you try and mess with her, then you're gonna get the wrong end of the stick.
If you can get a material that reflects a real personal vision, I would bank on that vision. That's what makes interesting movies. Not necessarily the most commercial movies, but sometimes the more interesting ones. When I read Matthew Bright's script, it didn't take me 10 seconds. I just thought, this has to be done. In this case, you know, I've always believed that the writer-director is the key.
And cut! Cut.
I don't like having other people direct my stuff, generally. And having those experiences sort of led me here. I just didn't give up the script. I said I wanted to do it, and there were enough people who wanted to do it that made it possible for me to get to direct this picture.
Look who got beat with the ugly stick. Is that you, Bob? You know it's gonna cramp your style with the babes, big time. You know that, huh?
Reese Witherspoon is amazing. I've never seen, it's almost like she lives inside that character and she's become this tough little street urchin. And my God, the things she says would have been shocking to my father, but they're shocking to me.
Oh, please.
Same thing with Brooke Shields. I've never seen Brooke Shields like this. She's very funny. Her face and her expression, she plays a totally serious person.
I want that little monster to pay for this. For me, for my husband, and for the next person out there that she'll end up hurting or killing if, God forbid, she's allowed back on the streets again.
What's really encouraging about it is to see first-time directors, to see people responding to just the material, to see people sort of banding together to help young producers, young directors, because there's so much talent out there.
the way that violence comes about in this kind of society is that she gives respect, you know? She expects respect in return. When she doesn't get the respect that she deserves, then she has to regulate. She has to, you know, that's when violence comes in.
My name is Vanessa Julia Lutz. Now say it before I tell you, Chillicothe.
Really, the problems that young people have in our society that they cannot, without proper parenting, they get lost in the system. It's one of the few films I've seen where it really just shows, you know, a reform school or what it's like to be in the system.
I guess I used characters that interested me, that would keep me at the typewriter so that I wouldn't leave it and you know, keep working. Demons of mine, they're all playing roles of things up here.
The movie, you know, is driven more by dialogue and wit than it is by special effects. But it's a comedy, you know, and I hope people understand that it's a dark comedy, and that's the style of it. You know, people who will get upset at this movie will be upset because they don't laugh. They have no sense of humor.
He went to get a beef treat, Mosquito, and he'll be right back. You can't get by the both of us. Shut up! Think about it. Shut up!
It's sort of a farcical sort of thing. You know, it's like almost comical how much violence is in this, and it's silly violence. It's not like real. It's not supposed to really scare you. You know, I think more than anything, it's not about a, you know, a juvenile detention person or, you know, a prisoner. It was more about the anger of coming from a place where she comes from, you know. Her mom is a whore and her daddy molests her, and her, not a real daddy, but. What I did was, I actually read a lot of interviews with, like, rappers, like Mary J. Blige and things like that. And it's really like, and it was really cool because Mary J. Blige has a lot of cool things to say about, you know, the way that violence comes about in this kind of society is that she gives respect, you know? She expects respect in return. When she doesn't get the respect that she deserves, then she has to regulate. She has to, you know, that's when violence comes in. And, you know, it's not that these people are intrinsically violent people. They just, it comes out of their nature. It's sort of a farcical sort of thing. You know, it's like almost comical how much violence is in this, and it's silly violence. It's not like real. It's not supposed to really scare you. So Kiefer's playing the Big Bad Wolf, and Vanessa's Little Red Riding Hood, and just going to see her grandma, and it's all this sort of traditional stuff in just sort of a modern way. Fairy tales are the way children deal with certain parts of their adolescence and certain parts of their psychological development. And part of the Little Red Riding Hood story is the fear that a young girl has of being molested. And that's why little kids want to hear the same stories over and over again, because it helps them work through psychologically their problems. And then the girl in the end ends up getting out and she overcomes her fear.
Well, Bob is the kind of character that hopefully is very far from whatever actor is playing him. He is not a well-adjusted person. So you take the elements of the script that bound the kind of restrictions that you're under for the character, and then you do some research. I went to some psychologists and talked about people. Bob's character specifically is a very bright young man, is a doctor, who has lost touch with reality. So I went and I worked with certain psychologists and talked to them about this kind of pattern of behavior, and they helped me with some tips. Well, I think he's got a very strong sense of humanity for himself. I think what makes him so terrifying is that what he thinks he's doing is right. It's just something that is very removed from our society, and it's something that is, it's the kind of humanity of a man who's gone crazy. It's not that I personally have a dark side. I think that visually it's more interesting, and from a character standpoint it's more interesting as an actor to delve into things that are sometimes very far away from you. And for an audience, from my point of view as an audience member, and what I like to go see in movies are things that really jolt me and that make me think, that give me a visceral reaction, that make me scared. And so all of those things were what made me attracted to this character. Matthew Bright wrote a wonderful script and has proven himself to be a very talented director. When I work on a film as an actor, I work for that one person. I don't care whether they've done 30 films or one film. I think that all of those fairy tales, I mean, from Peter Wolf to Little Red Riding Hood to Hansel and Gretel, they all have a very singular message that I think is certainly transcendent through our time. And I think that that's why they are called fairy tales, is because they have lasted so many generations. And all of them, if you think about it, are terribly scary.
I never really know this other side until my very final scene in the film. I defend his honor. I defend the man that I believe him to be until the very last moment. I can't say I ever knew. I mean, there are two very distinct sides to him, and one of them is charming, and one of them is very beguiling and trusting, and I think that's what I married, and I uphold that image in my mind, and I will fight for him and defend him until the very last moment. Well, I think being involved in this project has been very encouraging to me, to see that a movie that is lower budget and is independent, to be supported by Oliver Stone, to be supported by people of noted talent and ability and just notoriety. But also, what's really encouraging about it is to see first-time directors, to see people responding to just the material, to see people sort of banding together to help young producers, young directors, because there's so much talent out there that I think needs to be capitalized on, but in a very artistic, strong way, and that's what you see coming through a project like this.
Well, she's a bit more. She's not really the hookers that I usually saw, but there's a kind of a Midwestern quality to her, kind of a dusty, sandy. In my head, at least, I don't know if it's shown like that, but it's like, you know, where the sand blows. There's a lot of wind, and the sand is dry in your teeth, and it's a real. It has to be done, and it's kind of done in a woman-girl way, kind of in like she never grew up, but she is a woman. But she just it's just like, you know, she didn't have a job, so this is what she'll do.